We're back. Thanks for staying with us. I'm joined in studio now by Riggs Eckelberry. He's the CEO of Origin Oil. Of course, their stock symbol's OOIL. Always good to see you, Riggs.
Hey, Don.
So what are the pearls of wisdom in the algae industry this week? I mean, what we're seeing in the world is just an explosion of oil prices, and everybody is fretting about oil. Analysts are making a fortune going on the business channels talking about oil. It's a pretty good time for you to be talking about algae.
Well, there's a relationship between oil prices and the health of the algae industry. But you have to know exactly how that works. And it goes like this. Well, first of all, of course, as oil prices go up, we are able to make our break-even easier. Right. So that fundamentally transforms our business, and all of a sudden people can invest large amounts. And it's clear that oil prices are on a long-term uptrend. Let's say that everything gets worked out in Libya, Egypt, everything's good. We still have a fundamental huge growth in demand from China, for example, which added 1 million barrels per day last year. We're going to add another 2 million barrels per day in demand by the end of this year. So the ability of the Saudis to sort of make up for stuff is going away, right? And essentially the world needs more and more oil and coal and natural gas all the time. So that's a trend that increasingly is bankable for alternative energy. The other factor is this. As oil prices go up, marginal oil exploration like shale and the Athabasca tar sands in Canada become viable. Now those are very polluting, high CO2 type activities, and they're opposed by a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to encourage that kind of behavior. Well, algae actually can mitigate that problem. An algae system can suck up the CO2 and create quote-unquote clean fuel, right? At the same time, growing our industry. So there's a synergy between the carbon emission that's going on and the growing of the algae industry, which is the #1 absorber of carbon in the world today.
Well, now, of course, your company has essentially, over the last 2 or 3 years, taken this lead role in talking about algae as a biofuel feedstock, and we've seen development during that period of time, but there are many, many more things with respect to replacement for petroleum that algae can be used for. When we see these kinds of things happen in the oil business and prices going through the roof, that's got to make your phone ring more.
It does. And people forget perhaps that oil is also about very important chemicals. I think about 40,000 products are made with various oil derivatives, chemicals, etc. So we have just a huge array of products that are going to be affected. Those prices are going to rise, making plastics from algae, again, much more viable. So a whole range of products, foods, nutritionals, in addition to fuel and fertilizer, animal feed, all these things are critical and in growing demand throughout the planet as oil prices rise.
Now, for most people, they gauge the economic impact of oil prices on the price of gasoline. Let's face it, that's kind of what we look at here in Southern California. We're already seeing $4 per gallon gasoline. When those kinds of things happen, does it just sort of make the company want to accelerate the process of what you're trying to accomplish and try to keep pace with what's going on in the energy sector?
Don, we're already being, expected to accomplish so much in so little time that our key job right now is to stay focused. We have wonderful relationships with, for example, our major Australian partner, and now this Mexico program that's rolling out, and some new things we'll be announcing. So my job is to keep an eye on the pot, make sure it doesn't burn, just keep cooking it, and don't get out of whack, because we've got a technology path to scale up, stay composed, and accomplish our business plan, which is going just wonderfully.
You mentioned the Mexico project, and that is really significant. We chatted about that last week. What you have here is an official government mandate from the government of Mexico to, I think it was, achieve a certain percentage of jet fuel from algae by, I think it was 2015, correct?
1% of their national demand from jet fuel. And to be specific, we don't think it's all going to come from algae in the short term, because it's not going to bulk up that fast. There's something like 700,000 acres of 700,000 hectares of jatropha production in Mexico today that can take up the slack while algae plantations are built out. Nonetheless, it's a huge Manhattan project. The government and all the states involved are strongly supportive of it. the Mexican oil monopoly, Pemex, will be a player. This is turning into a big strategic play.
Now, I know that you probably have investor relations people that are answering phone calls all the time. People are calling the CEO. You're answering phone calls all the time from people who are interested in the company. And I'm sure one of the questions is, okay, when am I going to be able to pull up to a gas station that says OOIL on it? When you get those kinds of questions, what do you tell people?
Well, think of it more like Dolby. So you got a Panasonic tuner, and it's going to be Dolby on it. So we like to be the little powered by subtitle.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to raise $1 billion to go to market. Thank you very much. So you will see us in these sort of discrete settings, and I would say that we'll start seeing fuel from algae in the next 5 years. I think is a fair enough assumption.
Well, I think that's a timetable that most of us can be very comfortable with.
Thank you, sir.
Again, Origin Oil, OOIL is the stock symbol. Riggs, always an education. Thanks so much.
A pleasure.